Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mike Martin Show here on AM 790 WPRV and on Facebook Live. I'm your host, Scott Credici. Glad you could join us. The Mike Martin Show brought to you each week by United Healthcare. You put care into everything that you do. United Healthcare does too. United Healthcare, health plans that care for you and your family every step of the way. See what care can do at UHC.com. Well, let's welcome to the Mike Martin Show, my color analyst for Brown basketball here on WPRV from the class of 71, Russ Tyler. Russ, how are you?
I'm great, Scott. Good to see you. Good to see Mike and some good guests again this week. Can't wait.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Let's say hello to the head coach of the Bears, Mike Martin. Hello, Coach. How are you tonight?
Good to be with you, Scott and Russ. Another great show ahead, and excited to talk some Brown hoops.
Yeah, looking forward to talking to one of your former teammates, Earl Hunt, from the class of 03 a little bit later on, and your assistant coaches, TJ Sorrentine and Antone Gray. Mike, another week on the court with you guys. How are things going?
Yeah, going well. We're still socially distanced. We're in a modified version of Phase 2, the Ivy League Phase 2, which is not yet ready to relax the social distancing efforts. So there's hope maybe that we could progress to full Phase 2 or perhaps even Phase 3, where we could relax some social distancing in the gym, where we could do some inter-squad scrimmaging. Not there yet, but the guys are working hard. I think they're getting better. We're really focused on skill improvement and skill development, and building our habits on offense and on defense, and looking forward. At the end of the day, basketball is a game where it's nice to know if you can guard the guy and keep him in front of you and keep him out of the paint. It's nice to know if you can make a good read against the defense, depending on what they do. So if we get that opportunity to do some inter-squad scrimmaging, I think it'd be great as we continue to prepare for next season.
Mike, how are your current freshmen assimilating athletically, academically? Yeah,
so we have 5 of them, and they're all really talented student athletes. 4 of them are here with us in Providence and on the court working hard. The 5th is studying remotely. We have quite a couple different guys that are studying remotely this semester, just because of all the uncertainty back in November and December when they had to make the decisions about did they want to be in Providence in person? Did they want to be in their respective hometowns remotely? But I think it's a group that people and fans are going to be excited about. We've got some size and some athleticism in the front court. We've got some really good shooters. With all 5 of the guys, they can step out and shoot the ball, especially with some of the guards. They can really, make shots from the perimeter. And, I think that's definitely an area where, they can make an impact right away. Our team next year, if you look at it, I think we'll be, big and athletic and, have a lot of versatility defensively, offensively. We've got some playmakers, but you got to make shots and you got to put the ball in the basket. And I think this freshman class, along with next year's newcomers, will definitely help as far as putting the ball in the hole.
And Mike, from an academic standpoint, if I'm not mistaken, obviously this is the first semester that the freshmen were allowed on campus, and there will be a summer semester, or I guess as is the case this year, trimester. And then is the plan, as far as we know, for the university to go back to their 2-semester format come fall?
That's the plan. It was just kind of shared with the Brown community yesterday, assuming that, the vaccine distribution is widely available and accessible by the summer. The plan is to go back to our normal fall, spring semesters for the 21-22 academic year. But yeah, this is term 1 for our freshmen, and then our 3 sophomores who are here: Perry Cowan, Josh Watts, Karsten Kujelnik. So this is term 1 for them. Summer will be term 2. As you know, Ivy League athletic departments don't allow us to work with our players on the court in a normal summer. There's hope that we'll have that opportunity with just the freshmen and sophomores this summer. We've petitioned with the NCAA and are awaiting word from the Ivy office. The NCAA has approved it, and it should get approved because it's the regular term. Our freshmen were told they couldn't be here last fall because of efforts to de-densify campus. I think it was a brilliant move by President Paxson and her administration to go to the 3 terms in an effort to get as many people on campus as possible. So there should be some, great opportunity for us to remain on the court with our freshmen and sophomores this summer term.
And Mike, you've already established your incoming freshman class, I'm going to say for the class of 2022, maybe with some additions depending on what happens later on. How is the recruiting progressing for the class of 2023 at this point?
Yeah, so the class of 21, we've got 5 early decision admits, as you said, Russ, and we're thrilled about those guys. Following them, a lot of them are playing with their respective high schools, and we're watching their games live streamed, and I think our fans are going to be really pleased and impressed with that group. Everything continues to be virtual with the class of 22 and 23. But, we're trying to watch as much film as we can, as many live streams as we can. We're doing different, virtual visits on Zoom with those prospects, and trying to gather as much information as we can about the prospects as they, do their due diligence and gather information on their schools. We're hopeful this summer we'll be able to get out and see some of these guys play in person, because as important as video review is, as important it is to watch a guy play on film as much as possible, there's no substitute for seeing him in person and seeing his interactions with his teammates and his size and his physical ability and his body language, and is he a great teammate all the time, or is it only when things go well? Some of those things are a little bit harder to see on film than they are in person, so we're hopeful for that opportunity.
All right, we'll take a timeout. When we come back on the Mike Martin Show, we'll be joined by Associate Head Coach TJ Sorrentine and Assistant Coach Antone Gray when we continue with the Mike Martin Show on Facebook Live and WPRV right after this.
You put care into everything you do. United Healthcare does too. Like connecting you to care whenever you need it. Because like you, United Healthcare knows what care can do.
The day the world stopped was the day we found where to go. From now on, we're not going to leave anything on our plates, because we've learned to savor the moments that were always there, and they never tasted this good.
Welcome back to the Mike Martin Show on AM 790 WPRV and on Facebook Live. Scott Credisci, Russ Tyler, Bears head coach Mike Martin. This portion of the program is brought to you by the Brown Sports Foundation. Through your donations and the work of our volunteers, the Brown Sports Foundation is committed to providing funding and support to Brown athletics to enhance the student-athlete experience. Thank you for your generosity and service to Brown athletics. Well, normally this is our player profile segment, but this week we're going to be joined by a pair of assistant coaches. Associate Head Coach TJ Sorrentine is with us, along with Assistant Coach Antone Gray. TJ, how are you?
I'm great, Scott. Russ, how are you? Good to be here.
Good to see you.
All right, Antone, how are you today?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to see you both. TJ, we'll start with you. Obviously, it's been kind of a crazy year. We've gone a full year without basketball. What's this been like for you? Because it's probably the first year in your life you haven't had basketball for an entire calendar year.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good, Scott. Got to spend a lot of time with the family, and with 2 little kids. It's great to see them grow and grow when they don't stop. So it's been a lot of fun to be with them, and I would say that's been the best part of this layoff from not being in the gym.
Antone, we're almost a year into this at this point, and obviously the shutdown about last March 15th or so, but then you get back on the floor February 4th, I understand, with your team on a limited basis or whatever. How good was that to get back on the floor with your guys?
Oh, it's been great. It's been really exciting just to be around our guys. Obviously the coaching staff as well, but just to sweat equity with the guys on the floor, it's been tremendous, and I'm really enjoying it.
Tone, as a kid that went to St. Ray's and played for TJ's dad, then you go to Rhode Island College, where you had a great career for Coach Bob Walsh, followed him up to Maine, started your career in coaching, and now in your 4th season here at Brown. I guess my question to you is, you knew you loved basketball, but did you know that when your playing days were over with, that coaching was going to be something you'd pursue?
I think Coach Walsh did a really good job of kind of showing me the way, but I had no idea that I would get into coaching, and I was just around. I wanted to go overseas and try to play. I didn't have the opportunity to do so, so I dove in right away with coaching. I was a student assistant at Rhode Island College my last year, so right then and there I kind of realized that I would get into coaching if I didn't have the opportunity to play.
TJ, since the shutdown last year, how'd you manage to stay involved with the with your student athletes, developing their skills and that type of thing via Zoom, and that had to be difficult.
Yeah, you know what, Russ? It actually was. That was another positive as far as our team, just because I think we actually communicated more with them than we would have, in a normal summer. We obviously we missed last spring, which is always valuable to be on the floor with them. But we've done a lot. Coach Martin's done a great job of, keeping us together and, keeping the team connected. And, at times I almost feel like it's almost too much. We're almost overbearing with them at times, but it's good for us. It's good for them. I think just to stay connected, and I think that has been a positive. We have really gotten to know them on a different level. A lot of times a lot of your communication is on the floor. So now not being able to get on the floor until recently, it's helped us get to know them on a different level. So I think that's been a positive as well for us.
Mike, your relationship with TJ goes back many, many years. Tell the viewers, tell the listeners how it all began.
Well, so I think we played against each other probably early in our high school careers in the AAU circuit. I played with a small team out of Western Massachusetts, and TJ was playing with the Rhode Island Breakers, which was run by Mike Stevens, who, as we all know, is now, one of the best officials in the country, Final Four level official. For whatever reason, the team I was going to play on, or the team I had been playing on, quite a few of the guys were like graduating from high school when I was finishing up my junior year, and we weren't going to have much of a team, much of a roster. So Mike Stevens actually called me, and I'll never forget, asked me and my father if I'd be interested in coming down and playing with the Breakers, and meant a lot to me. Like, he thought enough of me as a player to be on that team, and we had a great summer. We won a ton of games. We played against some really good teams. I'll never forget, we beat Zach Randolph's team at a big tournament out in the Midwest. We played Eddie Griffin's team out of New Jersey. They were one of the best teams in the country in a tournament down at Fordham. And Antone's uncle Ed Gray was on that team. So that was my first introduction to the Gray family. So small world, obviously small state, Rhode Island, but that was an unbelievable summer. Helped me get recruited by Brown because, to be very candid, they were trying to recruit TJ, and Coach Miller said after he realized he couldn't get TJ, he's like, you know what, the Martin guy's not bad. Why don't we try to recruit him as well? So,
for the last year or up until that point in time, you did recruiting in a certain fashion, a certain style. So, talk to us about how the recruiting methods and so forth changed so dramatically overnight, and how you've managed to keep recruiting.
Scanning the country, honestly. Up at Maine, we were just doing a lot of recruiting in the Northeast, and once I got here, we started to scan the country, started doing a lot more down south, and I'll tell you a little bit. I stopped piecing transcripts together. I think at Maine it was piecing a ton together, but here up front who you can deal with and who you can. So it's been challenging my first couple of years. I think I'm kind of getting the hang of it a little bit more now, but it's been a lot different, and the difference is just kind of scanning the country.
Antone, you coached 1 year in high school. Juanita Sanchez led him to a Division III state championship. Team averaged 90 points per game. Talk to us a little bit about that experience, that 1 year experience as head coach at the high school level, and how it's helped you.
That was great. I was 23, 24 years old, and I was able to relate to the kids a ton, and that helped me, build bonds and build relationships. I was able to get on them, and they responded to me. So that was great. And I think it helped me learn how to build relationships, and I'll tell you, we averaged 90 points, and that was because one of my assistants, we were averaging about 70, and he said he wasn't scoring enough, and I thought it was too much, but and so we ran it up a little bit more. But yeah, he helped me a ton. The kids helped me grow, and I'm fortunate for that.
TJ, player development is really important at Brown, and of course Sean McGonigal and Zach Hunsaker got better and better as their career wore on. And then you have three guys as Ivy Defensive Players of the Year, Cedric and Obi and Jalen, and none of them came to Brown. Ballyhoo is defensive game changer. So how important is player development in building a successful program at Brown?
Yeah, Russ, we preach that all the time with our guys we're trying to recruit, and it's one thing we value in our program, and our guys know. If they put the time in, they're gonna get better. And that's it. honestly, Russ, it's we got guys who love to be in the gym, and it's always the guys who get better are the guys who live in the gym. There's no secret to that. You talked about Sean. He was one of the hardest workers we've ever had at Brown. It's just that's the key to success. You got to live in the gym. You got to get better. If you live in the gym, you will get better.
TJ, I asked Tone this question and the same question to you. Was there ever any question, as someone who just grew up as a gym rat, right? You played for your dad, who was just a legendary coach in the state at St. Ray's. You went to Vermont, had a spectacular career. You played some ball professionally, but was there ever any doubt when you were done playing that you were going to get into coaching? Did you know this was going to happen all along?
Yeah, I mean, for me, going to a public Ivy, not having it actually be an Ivy, my choices weren't as big as our student athletes are here for after playing. So, my first and foremost choice to do something after I was done playing was to coach. Just growing up with it, having my father, live and breathe with it, and I know Mike was the same way, with his father being a coach, and you just around it, and you feel it, and you see the connection. For me, I just saw the connection my father made with all of his players. Anywhere we went, he would see if he coached basketball, baseball, and football. So he had a ton of athletes that he impacted. And anywhere we went when I was a kid growing up, people knew who he was, and you could just tell the impact that he had on their lives, just the way they interacted with him. And that's something that I always took. And then it expanded to college. Coach Brennan was, he was one of the best at building relationships. And to me, that's the thing that draws me to coaching the most, just having impact on guys, having a relationship, and have that last, forever.
Anton, let's get to what's really important here. Can any Brown coaches hang with you, either shooting contest or one-on-one? When you got two of them right here that you can talk about quickly, your thoughts.
Oh, definitely shooting. I got to go with Coach Martin and Coach T, but I'm not sure Coach T can guard it all. So I think I'll get him one-on-one.
Rusty, I will say today he did bow out. He was supposed to in our coaching shooting challenges. He was supposed to shoot with Coach Martin this morning, and he did bow out. So we will see where he's at this year in 2021. We haven't seen it yet, so we'll see.
Was he afraid?
Listen, I'm not going to make any snap judgments.
Okay, all right.
TJ, I know Tom Brennan's been such a huge part in your life, and you're still close with your college coach. Just talk to us a little bit about TB, as you like to call him.
Yeah, he's the best, man. It's funny, like during the pandemic, he knew I wasn't able to go in the office or, get on the floor. It's literally, we talk 2 or 3 times a week. And so now that I'm back actually working in the office and, on the floor, he's not too happy with me because I don't pick up the phone anymore. So it's been interesting, but he's the best, man. He just to have a coach like that I talk to and can bounce things off. And, I always say he was like a father figure to me up in Vermont. He's the best. I can't speak more highly of him than anybody in my life.
And Russ, of course, TJ authored one of the worst moments of my life in 2005 at the Worcester Central.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with it, Scott. I was one of the 14 million people in the gym up in Worcester for that game.
March Madness, and it was, the distance goes back every year. So now I was at half court when I made that shot.
And Anton, so you grew up in Providence and you went to middle school at Moses Brown. You played at St. Ray's, then Rhode Island College, and ultimately coached at Maine with Bob Walsh for 4 years. How good was it for you to get back to Providence and coach at Brown?
Honestly, Russ, it's surreal, but it was something that kind of fell in my lap here. We got let go at the University of Maine, and just honestly having the connections that I have with Coach Martin and Coach TJ, something opened up here. But it was huge. I never once thought I'd be able to have the opportunity to coach here, and I love every single day of being here. I love being a Brown Bear. I love working with the staff, working with the players. So it's a great honor for me to be here.
Mike, you've had a lot of great coaches on your staff since you've been here as head coach. Some might say you're lucky. I would disagree. I think you've got a good eye for talent. I mean, you've had some turnover on the staff, like every coaching staff, right? Guys move on, but you've had a lot of good assistant coaches like these two working for you.
We're really fortunate. And both these guys are being really humble. I mean, Russ asked TJ about the player development. Obviously that's such an important part. We have to recruit great people. We have to recruit the right people. But we have to develop them once they get here, and not just on the court, but off the court. And the work that these two guys do, along with Cooper Handelsman and Sam Hirschberger, to really make these guys first and foremost have a great time and a great experience while wearing the brown jersey, but then improve. They're being very humble and modest. They're the biggest reason why our program has gotten to where it's at and why the guys have developed the way they have. You think about a guy like current senior Tom Cho, what he was when he came here to what he was to what he is now is night and day. And the staff, the work that they do with him in practice, outside of practice, in the film room, wherever it might be, to help him grow as a player in person is a big part of it. Now, obviously, T puts in the work. Like TJ said, if T didn't put the work in, it wouldn't be possible. But these guys, these coaches invest so much time in our student athletes, and we're so fortunate to have the staff we do.
Yeah, and Anton, this weekend coming up, if you played this year, would have been at Yale, possibly competing for an Ivy League championship. That didn't happen, and you're supposed to open up next year with Bryant, if all goes according to plan. Who's got the scout for the Bryant game?
Hasn't been discussed yet, Russ. Hasn't been discussed.
Well, you got to be watching my TV. You got to be watching them every time they play over and over again, aren't you?
Oh, for sure. Watching multiple times this year.
Well, TJ, Anton, thanks for joining us on Coach's Show tonight. Really appreciate it. Can't wait to see you and the team back on the floor next fall. And again, thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate the time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, TJ Sorrentine, Anton Gray, our guests here on the Mike Martin Show. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, our alumni spotlight. We'll talk to Brown basketball's all-time leading scorer, Earl Hunt, will join us when we continue with the Mike Martin Show right after this.
The Learfield IMG College Directors Cup, the highly recognized mark of distinction in college athletics across all divisions, both men's and women's sports. Follow your favorite team's pursuit for excellence in this prestigious annual award through thedirectorscup.com, USA Today, or L Directors Cup on Twitter. Learfield IMG College Directors Cup, the crowning achievement in college athletics since 1993.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Danielle. I'm here to present to you the Performance Fit series brought to you by Performance Physical Therapy. This is for anyone, if you're an athlete, you're exercising from home, or you're just returning to the gym. Even Bruno the Bear can do these types of exercises. We've got strength and conditioning, some flexibility and mobility, as well as speed and agility. So you can find all of these videos at brownrec.com or performanceptri.com. Hope you enjoy.
And welcome back to the Mike Martin Show here on AM 790 WPRV and on Facebook Live. Scott Credisci, Russ Tyler, alongside Bears head coach Mike Martin. This portion of the program brought to you by the Hilton Garden Inn Providence. It's the only waterfront hotel in the city that features newly renovated rooms, public space, and a bar and lounge area with outdoor seating and spectacular views of the harbor, located at 220 India Street in Providence. Make your reservation today. Well, right now it's time for our alumni spotlight segment, and joining us this week, he's the all-time leading scorer in Brown basketball history. From the class of 2003, Earl Hunt is with us. Earl, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here with you, Scott, Russ, Mike. Always good to be spending time with my Brown basketball brethren.
Well, it's great to have you with us, Earl. Coach, nice to have your former teammate with us on the show.
Yeah, he said he actually might throw a pass to me on the show. He didn't do that in 3 years I played with him. So I'm excited. There's always a first for first time for everything.
Hey, he didn't become leading scorer in Brown basketball history by accident, by passing the ball.
He shouldn't have passed the ball. When you can score it like he could, you don't need to pass it to bums like me. So he made the right decision.
So Earl, tell us what you're doing these days. I believe you're a partner in the securities division at Goldman Sachs. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm a partner in the securities division at Goldman. I'm in a firm-wide group that covers some of our largest, most complex investing clients, and I provide coverage for those clients across the firm, focused on the global markets division, but really delivering the firm in a holistic manner to those clients.
And Earl, you know what, from where you are now, let's go back to where you were before you got to Brown. Tell us about how you became interested in Brown, the so-called pathway to Brown. Happy Dobbs.
Yes, I was a senior at Good Counsel High School, which is right in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. And Happy Dobbs saw me at a AAU tournament and followed up with a lot of interest. And I came on a visit to Brown for a football game. There was actually, it was in September, there was a Brown football game. And I had a visit for a weekend with another area basketball player, a guy by the name of Omari Ware, who was an excellent point guard for Brown. And kind of had an excellent visit where we toured the campus, and I got to spend some time with a lot of alum at the basketball game, yourself and tailgate. And as I really interacted more with the people, Brown clearly became the place that I wanted to be. I just thought people were very collaborative, open, really smart, and had a passion for hoops for a program that was 4-22. So I said, there was an ingredient of passion here in this the program that had been losing, to maybe pivot and change. And Happy Dobbs was really active in recruiting me. And then once I committed to Brown, Happy Dobbs actually decided to leave during that season. Glenn Miller really picked up where Happy left off, with a real passion for the game of basketball, and made me really excited to be coming to Providence to join the university.
You know, Earl, I remember reading an article written by Billy Reynolds about your days at Brown and how influential your mom and dad were in that decision as well. Because I think, as you put it, your dad didn't go to college, your mom did, but your dad wanted you to have, and your mom for that matter too, they had big dreams for you, right? Was that a big part in your decision to choose Brown University as well, knowing that it would set you up for a great future?
Sure. I think first and foremost, and I've seen this now because I'm older, and people that I work with maybe have kids applying to college, and I realize how difficult it is to get into an Ivy League school. And I think my parents realized, it was a unique and special opportunity to have a high likelihood of being able to attend an Ivy League school, and all the promise that could bring, and the exposure to really smart and unique people that are just extremely talented, what that could mean for you in your future. And at the time, it was University of Pennsylvania and Brown that were recruiting me, both from the Ivy League. And they thought it would be, an incredible opportunity for me to be able to seize that opportunity. And I looked up, and I had these two incredible universities that were pursuing me. And my parents, while I also had a lot of other schools that could provide scholarships pursuing me as well, but my parents had a really good vision and said, you know what, we'd rather you go to an Ivy League school or a place like Brown versus, maybe a school didn't have the same caliber of academics. And, their vision really has played out well for me in my future, or I should say over the years. Hopefully we'll continue to play in the future too. So,
Earl, we talk about Happy Dobbs, and obviously he was an influence on your life. And a couple of weeks ago, Stephen Silas was on Mike's show and talked about how, as he, quote, auditioned for the job with the Houston Rockets, he called upon Happy for some advice. So the impact of coaches on you and on Stephen Silas, the coaches that you had in terms of Glenn Miller also, and the impact that Coach Martin has on his players, pretty important on people throughout their lives.
Yeah, I would say, Happy Dobbs in the recruiting process, really the way you carry yourself as a coach and engage with a young student athlete really resonated with me. And something, as I had maybe think about recruiting people in some aspects can certainly emulate. I thought Coach Miller, did an excellent job of always really being prepared and always being a consummate learner of the game of basketball. I really thought the way he prepared for games and scouting reports and things of that nature was really first class. So, if you kind of take some of Happy and some of Glenn, I think you get a really good combination of people. And I think as you go through life, whether, it's in your corporate job or your family or what have you, you really try to take the best attributes and traits from people and then kind of build upon that for yourself. And that's certainly what coaches have done for me, including my high school coach for that matter.
Mike, you don't become leading scorer at any Division I school by accident, right? I mean, you have to have a ton of talent. But we talked about this with Peter Sullivan last week, and I feel the same way about Earl. I think great scorers just have an unbelievable knack of being able to get to the free throw line whenever they want. And that was like an art for Earl. Earl would, shoot 10, 12, 15 free throws per game.
Yeah, for guys like me who couldn't even average double figures, I used to always pick Earl's brain. And first of all, there's not a better leader or a person to have worn our jersey. And we've had some great ones, but nobody better. But Earl set the tone every day with his passion, with his work ethic. He was always in the gym outside of practice time. But I remember picking his brain about, just everything about the game of basketball. He was a year older than me. And he's like, well, Mike, I can get to the foul line 10 to 12 times. There's 10 or 12 points right there. It's really not that hard to get to 20. If you hit a couple jumpers, you're already there. And it was so true. I mean, there was so many nights, and we all remember where he just carried us. He was as tough of a competitor as I've played with. Just had a knack for putting the ball in the basket and making big time plays and big time shots.
Earl, in terms of specific memories of in games and so forth, you have a million that you could come up with, and so do I, and so does Scott, and so does Mike. But one that sticks out to me is I believe it was your sophomore year down at Columbia. I was happy to be sitting in the stands next to your captain from your freshman year, Corey Vandiver, and you guys were locked into a very, very tight game. I believe it was tied within the last 10 seconds. Timeout Brown. Coach Miller set up a play, and I said to Corey, what's Brown going to run? And he said, Earl, money. And turns out that Corey was 100% correct, because put the ball into play, got the ball in your hands, you hit a jumper, and we all went home happy. So talk about that memory or others if you'd like to. That was
I believe, Russ, that was the second night of a Friday-Saturday series. Not that I still remember that type of stuff, but and I remember there was a play, I think it was a 4-play, in which, there's a stagger, not that I remember these types of things in details, but it was a stagger screen on one side, single on the other. And it was funny, the whole night, normally if you're guarding a shooter, you want to kind of get on their outside shoulder and force them to curl. You never want to go over the top on a screen, because you never want to give that space, because if a good shooter sees you try to shoot the gap, a good shooter is going to fade. And they had played really good defense the entire night, guarding that play, because it was a play that we used to like to run a lot. Coach Miller used to run. I think Mike still runs that play now, actually, to kind of get a shooter open or to create some mismatches and things of that nature. And for whatever reason, they played it well the whole night. And when I went to come off the screen, I remember I couldn't believe it. The guy shot the gap for the first time. And I was like, wow, you played great all night. And it created a fade, which is, if you're a reasonable shooter, you're going to have a little bit of room on the back of that. And I do remember Omari Ware throwing a great pass and then hitting the game-winning shot. And I kind of took that personal that game, because Glenn Miller told me, the player on Columbia was like the best player in the league. And, it's kind of getting you all worked up. And so I do remember that moment, Russ. Not that, I think about these things, but I do remember that moment. I remember that shot. And it was fantastic that I went in.
Yeah,
Earl, there were a lot of other memories as well, 39-point efforts against Central and Harvard. But that was just one. Go ahead, Mike.
Scott and Russ, we try to run the play, but the problem is we don't have Earl Hunt reading screens. It doesn't work quite as well. But that was a really good Columbia team, and that was off a Saturday night after a close win at Cornell the night before. And that set up, I think, what we all remember was probably the first really big weekend in Brown basketball history, at least in our era. The following weekend, we had Penn and Princeton in here to close out the regular season. We beat Penn on a Friday night, and then unfortunately lost a close one to Princeton. But that shot by Earl, he described it perfectly. Great read by him, great pass by Omari, hitting Earl on time, on target, and the rest was history. But that set up a huge weekend. People were camped out, waiting in line for tickets. The student crowd that weekend, the following weekend, I still have a picture in my office. It's not hung because we just moved into our new office, but that was a great memory.
Earl, I look at some of your teammates, and look, I mean, you, Elahi, Jamie, Coach Martin, Pat Powers, Jason Forte. I mean, to me, and I love what Coach Martin's doing, because I think he's now putting together that type of talent again within this program. But man, you guys had a lot of guys that could play.
Yeah, we had very talented teams. I know over the course of my 4 years, the talent just got better every year. Like Mike Martin coming in, Pat Powers, Jamie Kilburn. Every year the talent was getting better, which is what you'd expect from a winning program. I remember the talent that I came in as a freshman versus the talent that was coming in as a senior. And I agree with you. What I've seen from Mike, over his tenure, is the talent continually get better at the program, and as well as maintaining a culture of winning, of people playing for each other, of playing hard, of discipline, and also student athletes that we're really proud to support as an alumnus. So I think we started that certainly while I was there, and it's great to see, as someone who really supports the program and is proud of the program, to see that tradition continuing.
Earl, Scott mentioned before your mom and your dad, and I mean, the question is, how important were they in your development? There's no question that they were key in your development, but in terms of getting the games at Brown, I don't know if they missed any games, and even post-graduation, your dad was there for alumni games year in and year out, and your mom was there cheering him and you on as well. But very special people, Earl. You were lucky.
Yeah, I was. I've been very fortunate. They've been incredibly supportive, and I probably, that's probably been the hardest part of COVID. As you think about the various sacrifices you have to make, is I haven't been able to see them quite as much as I have traditionally. So when we get together, it means that much more to me now. But yeah, they really worked at always being there. It was great. It was fantastic.
So more importantly, we've seen you at times back at Brown for alumni weekend or for a game here and there. And I've seen Earl Hunt III with a basketball in his hands. What's his basketball future look like? And does it include a Brown Bears uniform?
Well, if he would like, it certainly would. He has a lot of fun, and he has a younger brother. He has two younger brothers. One that is like coming up on 5. So they're already starting some 7 and 5, starting some battles, and we have a lot of fun with it. So I don't want to put any pressure on him yet, but if he takes a liking to it, I'm certainly going to be supportive.
Earl, you've been involved with a lot of things at Brown since you've graduated, as the Brown Sports Foundation, the board of directors, and now trustee of the university for the last couple of years. It's hard to get a bigger honor than that in terms of helping, supporting Brown. Is there any possibility that any of those positions will interfere with your love for Brown basketball?
I'm Brown basketball first. Okay, I'm probably one of the few people on the board of trustees that say Brown basketball than everything else. So, no, I don't think it's been when I talk to people about Brown, while it's only 4 years that you're a student there, it's something that you carry for life. The people, the network, continue to bring back in. It's one of those things in life, the more you give to it, seemingly the more it gives back to you. And it's been a unique relationship for me, being a part of the university, where at every step the university's asked for me to do various things, and each time I do, it makes me want to do more, and I get more out of it. So it's been fantastic, and I've really enjoyed. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life was to come to Brown.
the 2003 season was such a special one for you and your team. 17 wins, an NIT appearance, 12-2 in the Ivies, and the only 2 losses, 2 absolute wars with the Penn Quakers. What do you remember about that year in particular?
Well, I actually remember we got off to a slow start that year. There was high expectations coming into it. And I think we got off to like a 4-9 start off the back of the year before we'd started the season like 12-3. And I remember Yale had really had a good out of season, really performed well outside of conference play. And I remember it was myself and Elahi Muliatia were seniors, and we were kind of injured, banged up. And then we came around to Ivy League play. And we said, we're a really good team. We've underperformed to start. If we can just win our first game at Yale, I think we might be able to do something special. And I remember we won that first game, and Jason Forte was a sophomore, and he had really matured during the first part of that season. And Mike and Pat Powers were juniors. And I remember we won that first game at Yale, and then we swept them. And I think we all looked at each other and said, you know what, this could be a really special season. And it was a really special group, and we were close knit, and we kind of overcome adversity to start the year. And I think that really made us strong for conference play. And I just remember thinking this was such a special group of people that I was playing with. And as a senior, after 3 years, I'm sure Russ remembers, you're not going to be lacing them up where it matters going forward. And I just remember it was just a special time with that group. And a lot of those teammates are still friends to this day. We're very close. So that's kind of what I remember to start. And then, of course, I remember Chris Berman at the end of the year announcing the game. That was something special that I always remember as well.
Earl, that season you got off to a slow start, but you were hurt for many of the games early in that season. You had a knee injury and didn't play. But what I think you made the point kind of that also gave the opportunity for other guys to play a little bit. For instance, down at Navy, you were down there, you didn't play in that game, and Pat Powers I think had 32, and you guys won in overtime. But so the team developed as a result of the fact that you were hurt, and helped get the team ready for Ivy League play.
Yeah, I mean, Pat was hurt and I was hurt, and I think you're right. To the point I wasn't there, it allowed others to really come into their own, and it really made us stronger as we went on. It was it made a big impact for some of the juniors and some of the players that didn't have an opportunity to kind of lead. So then as we went into the season, we were much stronger because of that experience. It all kind of worked out together.
Earl, my last question for you. You talked about Mike and the job he's done here at Brown, and we all see it. And what I love about Coach, and I want to know if you see the same thing, as you know, like you, he played for Coach Miller. He coached with Coach Miller. And I know Mike, deep at his core, he's kind of an old school, everybody's going to work their ass off, in every minute of practice and every minute of every game. Having said that, as you know, today's kids are different, right? I mean, the world evolves, and if you don't evolve, you become extinct. That's what I love about Coach Martin. I have seen him kind of adapt his coaching style, and more importantly, I think, how he relates to kids. He does such a great job of relating to all the young men that he recruits, and doesn't stick to that old school mentality, which I know, like I said, is deep down inside of him. He's evolved, and that's what I love about him. He understands, what changes need to be made year to year.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that from Coach Martin over his tenure, really adapt to this generation. I think we're all adapting to, the next generation of people, because, the world's evolving and changing. And you hit it on the head. If you can't adapt, you become extinct. And I really think coaching or managing is kind of figuring a way to get the most out of your people. And that can come in a lot of different forms. Like, it's not about being rigid to get your team or your personnel to perform the way you see. It's about putting them in position where they can be their best. And what I've seen from Coach Martin is, as his rosters have changed and his personnel has changed, he's done an excellent job of getting the most out of that team. And I think at a place like Brown and coaching this team, that adaptability is crucial because your teams are going to evolve. You can't say, I'm going to have the most athletic team in the league necessarily year in and year out. You may one time or two times, but you really have to be flexible and nimble to be successful. And Coach Martin has been able to do that. And I've been incredibly impressed over his tenure from him being able to execute.
Earl, great stuff. Great to catch up with you as always. Thanks so much for joining us on Coach's Show tonight. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. That's
Thank you,
Earl
Earl.
Hunt, Brown basketball's all-time leading scorer, with us, wrapping up the Mike Martin Show here on AM 790 WPRV and Facebook Live. For Earl Hunt, for Mike Martin, and for Russ Tyler, my name is Scott Credisci. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
This has been a presentation of Learfield IMG College.